Chairman, and I want to express up front that I believe it is in the national security interest of the United States to provide assistance to the resistance in Ukraine to repel the Russian invaders for several reasons. Number one, to prevent a broader war in Europe, to deter that broader war, and to prevent a triggering of our Article 5 obligations under NATO. I think it's also important to send a signal to other totalitarian regimes, including the regime in Beijing, that aggression towards a sovereign or at least independent democracies is something that the civilized world will not tolerate. Having said that, Congress, the American people through Congress, has now appropriated over $113 billion in emergency supplemental funding to respond to Russia's war in Ukraine. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And so in order to sustain the American people's support for that effort and to fulfill our national security interests, we have to have accountability. And so I appreciate you being here today to testify about your efforts. It's why I support the 39 provisions enacted over 4 Ukraine supplementals that require reports to Congress on oversight and accountability of all the aid sent to Ukraine. It's why I support the 64 ongoing planned or ongoing audits and reports by GAO and the IGs for DOD, State Treasury, and USAID. My first question relates to the return on investment here and this national security interest. Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, testified to Congress last week that if Russia were to prevail against Ukraine, the U.S. would need to be doubling our defense budget. The $49 billion in security assistance packages to Ukraine accounted for just 6% of our 2022 defense budget. Spending single-digit percentages to support Ukraine seems like a pretty good return on investment for taxpayers, considering that we're delivering a body blow to one of our strategic adversaries, a blow that would have cost us much more to deliver ourselves. Given our national security priorities, would you say that our current spending in Ukraine reflects a responsible use of taxpayer funds compared to the cost of defending our allies in Europe should Russian imperialism go unchecked?
So with regard to the policy question inherent in that, that's really a question for the administration and Congress, of course. What I can say is each of our offices individually and working together and with our oversight partners are committed to doing oversight to ensure that the money that is appropriated is used as intended.
Thank you. And we obviously cannot stand alone in our support for Ukraine, and the U.S. has assembled a coalition of over 50 countries to get critical weapons and supplies to Ukraine. According to a report by the European Union delegation to the United States, the EU and its member states have made available over $73 billion in financial, military, humanitarian, and refugee assistance, including a commitment of up to $19 billion in additional assistance for 2023. Over $13 billion in military assistance has been provided to finance military supplies to Ukraine, train over 30,000 Ukrainian military personnel, and more. These numbers tell me that we are not alone in our support for Ukraine, nor are we alone in trusting Ukraine with the assistance provided. Could any of you speak more to the efforts made by our partner countries in Europe and beyond to support Ukraine?
Well, I'll take a side route on that and simply note that at Department of State OIG, we have 2 inspections that are soon to be released, looking specifically at the U.S. mission to the European Union and the U.S. mission to NATO. And the focus of that work will be looking at how we are coordinating with our partners. So it won't be sort of assessing the sufficiency of the inputs that they're making, but ensuring that where we're also providing similar assistance, that there isn't duplication of effort, that we are staying closely coordinated, and that those contributions are aligned with strategic goals.
Mr. Stork, after the fall of Afghanistan, there seemed to be a large amount of confusion on the amount of weapons and materials given to the Afghan National Security Forces that then fell in the hands of the Taliban. Have we learned any lessons from that, and to your knowledge, have any U.S. arms or munitions fallen into Russian hands?
Thank you for the question. My office, again, prior to my being there, but my office did a substantial amount of work related to the weaponry that you're speaking about. And to my knowledge, we have not substantiated any diversion of weaponry, but it's something we continue to look at on an ongoing basis, obviously.
Thank you. I yield.
Gentleman's time has expired.